This video was brought to you in part by the supporters of the AMTV Patreon. Thank you. Hello, and welcome to the Ident Review, the show where we have a good look and chat about the various television idents that we've come to know and love over the years. And for this instalment, we're coming right up to date by taking a look at the idents from the recently relaunched BBC Three. After 6 years of existing solely as an online channel, BBC Three made its return to traditional television screens on the 1st of February 2022. With its successful stable of unique programming, including The Rap Game, Killing Eve and RuPaul's Drag Race, BBC Three continues to strive to entertain and to appeal to the young adult demographic. But what about its idents? The way it chooses to visually represent itself? BBC Three has always gone for unique looks, right back from the blobs in the early 2000s, the pink and purple tube aesthetics of the late noughties, to the more simplistic angle of the mid-2010s. So now, with its relaunch in 2022, what look did BBC Three decide to go for this time? Let's find out. Well, you certainly can't mistake the colour. After many years, BBC Three has ditched a series of pinks and purples as its defining colours to replace it with a bright and vibrant green, which to be honest, I quite like. It's a vastly different colour scheme to any other BBC channel at the moment, and in my view, it helps give Three its defining visual flair, something it's always excelled in its 20-year life so far. Meanwhile, the main focus of the ident package is on these three hands, which have been named by the Beeb as Captain, the purple hand, Spider, the rose hand, and Pointer, the pink hand. It's nice to see a BBC channel return to personality-themed idents, very much a reminder of the early 2000s, particularly the Personality 2s, which also used a strong and bright one-colour background. Another nice note is the callback to the days of BBC Choice. This was the forerunner to what would become BBC Three, and in its early days, BBC Choice also would incorporate 3 copies of the same item, such as hearts for example, as part of its main ident package. So even though it hasn't been confirmed, it remains a nice throwback all the same. I love the mix of green, purple and pink tones too, a beautiful colour combination, and again, one that further helps BBC Three stand out in the hundreds of channels available on traditional TV. But this ident is merely the generic variety, the placeholder. So now let's take a look at some sequences that we've seen emerge thus far, starting with jeans. Very amusing. It seems like this new ident package is very much going for what made the Personality 2s work almost 20 years prior, taking the generic template of the three hands and adding in a subtle new element that aims to make it appear charming and eye-catching. This time around, we have all the hands wearing a set of jeans, and the way in which the designers have been able to incorporate said clothing onto these guys is indeed very charming and inventive. I never thought I'd be impressed at a purple hand in white jeans strutting its stuff to the camera. I kinda wish the other two hands equally did a bit more alongside Captain here, but for what it is, it's a charming little variant that gives us a glimpse of the simple, yet entertaining concept that BBC Three's new look is aiming to deliver. Let's move on along to our next sequence today, phone. Now, this one I find quite fun. Taking a current part of our everyday life and inserting these hands into it, the idea of selfies and the use of filters on mobile phones has only become more and more popular over the last decade, so it only makes sense for the BBC's more contemporary channel to reflect that. Plus, it gives the three hands chance to show off a bit more personality, each of them vying for central position in the picture before all coming together to strike a series of poses. In a way, I feel this is a more successful interpretation of what the jeans ident was going for. We get to see these three and how they work around each other. We get to see the fun little fights they have to get in the frame, we get to see their reaction for when the photos are taken. It's all great stuff. Like Genes, it is a very straightforward concept and sequence, but if we've learned anything on the Ident review, it's that it isn't necessarily a bad thing. My favourite of the two so far, but let's see if it can be eclipsed by our next variant today: swimming. Now this feels very familiar. Once again, I'm making comparisons back to the Personality 2s of the early 2000s, as they too had an ident very similar to this, with the two bobbing about underwater. I must say though, I think I prefer the new BBC 3 version. The advancement of time and technology has greatly benefited this concept. With HD visuals and much improved computer animation, the movement of the three hands here look and feel a lot more fluid, and are very appealing to the viewer's eye. The other main factor that I enjoy with this ident is how the hands move about the underwater space, how they use each of their fingers to swim about, and like the previous two variants, it all comes across as being very charming. This is also probably the most soothing of the new BBC 3 idents so far, the underwater setting helping to create a really calming atmosphere. Honestly, I wouldn't mind if this was the channel's main placeholder for the hours when it's off the air, or even as a screensaver on my computer in fact. So that's 3 for 3 so far in terms of the variants. Let's see if our last one today can make it a full house. So let's take a look at nails. Nice to see some program integration here. For those who may be unaware, one current show on BBC 3 that is popular is the Nail Bar Boys, showcasing a group of Vietnamese lads painting nails for a living and helping each other with other factors of their lives. To see an ident where the hands are painting each other's nails is not only a great use of the design itself, but also a nice way to tie in the new idents to the content that is being shown on the channel. Once again, the charm is out in full force, with Spider racing in to steal the nail varnish, ruining Pointer's lovely work on Captain. I do wish a bit more had happened in the sequence, a continuation of the event so to speak. But this is early days for the revamped BBC 3, and hopefully this, along with new variants, will make their way to the channel sooner rather than later. I also hope that we see more sequences do what Nails is doing, creating scenarios that directly link to the programmes on the channel. But as far as I'm concerned, these initial few idents for BBC 3 in 2022 are nothing short of bloody lovely. Like many others, I'm glad to see BBC 3 return as its own traditional TV channel. It may have surprised many of us, with some even decrying it as a step backwards, but regardless of where you stand on this, I think it's safe to say that the ident package introduced for the relaunch continues BBC 3's stellar work in creating unique, striking, and memorable sequences that help cement its identity to the viewers watching, and help it stand out in an increasingly difficult and crowded television landscape. And so that brings us to the end of another episode of the Ident Review. If you enjoyed this look at the new idents for BBC 3, please leave a like, comment your thoughts down below, and subscribe to the channel for lots more ident related content. I've been Adam Martyn from AMTV, thank you for joining me, and I'll see you next time. Well, that does bring us to the end of another day here on AMTV. We do hope you enjoyed the programme, and a special thank you to our patrons for helping to support the show, and to everyone who's tuned in. Until the next broadcast, we wish you a good night.